Miles in Love is the last omnibus collection of the Vorkosigan Saga by Lois, McMaster, Bujold. Now you might be confused why I'm reviewing this one before Miles, Mutants, and Microbes. That's because the last two omnibus novels are actually done out of order. This is the, I want to say, the sixth one. However, it's fifth chronologically, even though it was published 2 years after the one before it. The reason why is because, chronologically speaking, after Miles Errant, you're supposed to read Memory, which is like a standalone novel, and then the next two would be Komarr, A Civil Campaign, and Winterfair Gifts. Two novels and a novella that are in this one. And however, the omnibus novel that was published before it has a prequel called Falling Free, a reprint of the short story Labyrinth, and then one called Diplomatic Immunity, which is a novel that takes place way later in the timeline. You don't want to read Miles, Mutants, and Microbes before Miles in Love. You want to read Miles in Love first. So on to the review. This chunker, look at this, guys, like 700 some pages. Yeah, it's 800. Oh, wow. It took me a while to read this one because it's 850 pages long. But it's made up of two novels and a novella. The first one being Komarr. It takes place on the planet of Komarr, a place that we haven't been to before. So we're getting a lot of cool world building as Miles and a co-worker of his go down there to investigate the destruction of a special array. Komarr is a planet that doesn't have breathable air, so everything's done in air bubbles, and something was destroyed, so they have to figure out if it's just ineptitude or if it's sabotage. And Miles basically gets roped up in this family and scheme, and he has to sort of uncover it with his new job and everything. It's a very simple, effective story, really enjoyable, a little bit of espionage, a little bit of, just it's basically introducing a new character, really, that sort of becomes the focal point of his affection, which is why this omnibus novel is called Miles in Love. So the next one is A Civil Campaign, which it's really interesting because it's not considered a Vorkosigan adventure. The little subtitle is like a comedy in biology or something like that. What can I can use to describe A Civil Campaign is it's probably the funniest novel in the Vorkosigan Saga because it's all taken place on one planet, but it's all about love. So it almost feels like a Jane Austen novel, but with all your favorite characters from the Vorkosigan Saga novel. So almost every character is involved in some sort of romantic entanglement. Miles has his eye on a new woman, the one he met in Komarr, and then his brother Mark has his own sort of dealings on with one of the Kudalka girls. And we're also exploring a couple other subplots involving one of Mark's friends who has like this new bug business that like sort of takes up a large amount of the plot. There's also other characters and their romantic entanglements. And it's basically just a sort of hilarious sort of hodgepodge of romantic entanglements. There's also a political like election of sorts, the subplot, that's pretty interesting too. So this one has the least amount of space battle. It's not a space opera. This one's more of a grounded sort of Jane Austen, like, little stories about romance and stuff. And it was easily the funniest out of all of the Vorkosigan Saga novels, and I really enjoyed this one. And then the last one we get is another novella, this time at the end, called Winterfair Gifts. It takes place on Barrayar as well, and it's basically from the perspective of one of the armsmen of Vorkosigan Serlo. So he's basically just there to protect everyone during another celebration at the end, Winterfair. And it's basically really short, sweet, simple, but it's interesting seeing it from another perspective. And there's also a lot of plot, even though it's a short story. So Miles in Love is a pretty solid entry, even though it's long. There's there wasn't a weak novel or novella in this one at all. The first one was pretty interesting, lots of world building. The second one was hilarious and different in tone. And then the third shorter story novella was still interesting as well. So I give Miles in Love a 5 out of 5. There's not a lot to dislike in this collection.